In the last 3 months, 14 dead whales have washed up on the shores off the Atlantic coast.
Yeah.
Some experts and pundits are saying that it could be due to an offshore wind farm that's currently being assembled. It's a project called Ocean Wind 1, which is 15 miles off the New Jersey shore and is constructing 98 wind turbines. These wind turbines are over 900 feet tall with blades that are longer than an American football field. What kind of role do you think these wind turbines are playing in the deaths of these whales, or is that over-exaggerated or under-exaggerated?
I have to be clear, Jesse. I can't say that for sure. What I do know, and what I've written on my Substack, and I'll make the plug, robertbryce.substack.com, I wrote about this just a few weeks ago, that in fact, when you look at the offshore wind projects that are being proposed, the overlay of those projects is almost exactly on top of the known habitat for the critically endangered North Atlantic right whale, of which there are less than 400 individuals left on the planet. And of that, there are only about 70 breeding females. So all of these whale deaths on the East Coast are a cause of concern. I think it's been humpbacks. I don't know what the other species of whales that have washed ashore, but the number that I saw most recently, I think, was 18. Is there a direct connection between the whale strandings and the development of offshore wind? You know, there are a lot of factors involved here. But what I will say definitively, and I think that I'm a longtime critic of the wind industry. I think that this industry in many cases has acted incredibly irresponsibly. Onshore in particular, and I can cite numerous examples of how they have bullied local communities and tried to force them to accept wind projects they don't want. And if the oil and gas industry were acting like the wind industry, they would be pilloried on the front pages of the New York Times over and over. But because it's the wind industry, they, it largely gets ignored. I report on it, but not many other reporters do. That's a quick aside. But this offshore wind push, and the Biden administration is aiming for 30,000 megawatts of deployment of wind. I think it's just crazy. It's just flat crazy. It's crazy town. I'm not going to get too technical, but that I like that technical term, crazy town, Jesse. We're going to be putting wind projects in known habitat for one of the most critically endangered marine mammals on the planet. Why? And where are the NGOs, the climate NGOs? They're being quiet because they believe that climate change is more important than saving whales. Well, I'm old enough. I'm 62. I'm old enough to remember when environmentalists cared about whale populations, but this concern has been cast aside because these NGOs, and I will say it, they are bought and paid for. And I get wound up about it, but they are bought and paid for by these wind companies. And many of them are foreign companies. They're not even American companies. They're British and they're Danish and other, Norwegian. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, this is insane from just a wildlife standpoint. And second, if there were the oil and gas industry were aiming to put not just dozens, but hundreds of offshore platforms on the East Coast, the hue and cry would be audible from New York to here where I am in Austin, Texas. And then finally, it's terrible for ratepayers. Offshore wind, the only thing more expensive than producing electricity with offshore wind, I think, is burning American currency in the furnace. It's just insanely expensive.